for asking me to do this. You know, it's funny. All my life I did things to get attention, and I got attention. I didn't want it, and that's what it's like right now. My sponsor didn't ask me to do this. He told me, you're going to speak at the men's retreat. I think he didn't ask me because he knew I'd have said no. Anyway, my name's Bob. I'm an addict. And, I went to my first meeting in 1972 in San Diego, California. I was 22 years old, and I'm 73 now, so it was 50 or 51 years ago. So I'm going to tell my story, and I'm not going to tell every little bit of it because there's a whole lot of it to tell. I went to that first meeting. I was strung out on a particular drug. I was suffering from a drug-induced psychosis. I had imaginary bugs crawling all over me that, I mean, they weren't imaginary to me, they were real, but no one else could see them. You couldn't look right at them and see them, you had to look away, and you could feel them, and I'd grab them, and I'd pinch a little piece of my skin, and I started making slides. I went and bought a microscope to prove to people that they were real. And I ended up with all these little sores and stuff, and no one ever did look and go, yeah, I see what you mean. So I ended up in a psych ward, and they told me that I was suffering from a drug-induced psychosis. The only thing that would make the bugs go away was discontinuance of my drug use. And I didn't know how that was going to happen. And the only person I knew that had gotten clean was my brother-in-law, and I went to him, and he took me to my first NA meeting. I don't remember much about that meeting. I remember that I believed some of them people were clean. I'm not one of the people, when they said they were clean, I didn't believe them. I believed some of them, and I didn't know if it would work for me, but I believed it worked for them. And so I decided to give it a try, and I stayed clean for 2 years, and after my brother-in-law, at that time, 1972, there was only one NA meeting a week in San Diego, so he took me to some meetings of the other fellowship, the Liquid Fellowship. And if alcohol was a powder, there'd only be one fellowship. But in their first step, they demand that you name the drug that you're using, that you're powerless over. So when I went to NA and I read powerless over your addiction, I thought it meant your addiction. Like you use this drug, you use this drug, you use this drug. And I thought my problem was the one drug that I'd been using that made me psychotic. And I thought, well, weed and alcohol are not a problem. I never had a problem with them. I thought, if you're just smoking weed and drinking, you're clean, right? So, so I tried that, and it didn't work. Failed miserably, it's been 51 years. I've got 2 years, 2 months, and 26 days to go. So I've relapsed a lot of times, every way you can relapse. I mean, thousands of times. But I'm talking about relapsing from 2 years, 4 years, 6 years once, 8 years was the longest I ever made it. In the last 30 years, I was probably clean 20 years, but never all at once. On the installment plan, a little here, a little there, and I kept relapsing. One time I decided that I didn't have any money. My business wasn't doing good, so I needed some money. So I called a friend of mine who lived in San Diego. He sent me 40 kilos of weed, and I started selling weed. I figured that now that I'm clean, I'll just sell weed, and everything will be dandy. Well, it wasn't dandy. In a short period of time, I got a bad headache, and I was working in a alleyway, and I never even talked to this guy before, but I knew that he could get me dope. So I went down and I asked him if he'd give me some dope. He said, "You got $50?" I said, "Yeah." And 15 minutes later, I was using dope and I was off to the races again. I'm trying to think of other ways that I relapsed, but I think when I didn't like the way I felt, I used to change the way I feel. That was my solution. And so most of the time when I relapsed, that's what it was. I'd get myself into situations where I didn't like how I felt, and my solution was to use, and I'd get loaded. In 1996, my perspective changed. I realized that I always do things in a way that usually doesn't work. Like I came into the program, you guys are doing, okay, these 5 things, go into meetings, work in SABs, get a sponsor, read the book, do service. Okay, I'll do 2 of those things. and I'll make it work that way. And I kept trying and trying and kept failing and failing. And my perspective changed to, I realized that the program's guaranteed to work. If you do what it says, it's all written down. I don't need to figure out anything. I don't need to think about anything. If I do what it says, it's guaranteed it will work. And so I started to do that. I started to go to meeting. I had a sponsor, working steps, and doing all the things you're supposed to do, and it worked. And a couple years later, I tapered off. I thought I don't need to go to so many meetings, so I tapered off my meetings, and once I tapered off my meetings, my character defects grew and took me right back out the door again. So, I don't know where I'm going with all this, but part of the reason I didn't want to speak is because I've done this a lot. I've spoken a lot before, but about 5 years ago, I injured my diaphragm, and I didn't understand what that meant. And what it meant was, every time I'd do enough dope to nod out, instead of nodding out, I'd stop breathing. And so I started overdosing, and I'd overdose 2-3 times a week, and I kept trying to use. I wasn't going to quit using, so I kept overdosing, kept waking up on a gurney, being pushed in the hospital, and that wasn't working for me. So I got on Vivitrol and stopped using that drug, but I realized, well, that'll prevent me from using this drug, but I can use this other drug. So I went on a run on that, and I'd been using for about 2 years, and I was working for my son, and he told me that if he couldn't have me around him if I was using, because he's clean now, and if I was going to keep using, he'd have to fire me because I worked for him. And he gave me until February to get into recovery. So February 2nd, I went into a treatment program and stayed there for 30 days. And when I got out, I went to Rose Street, or to New Frontiers group. And my sponsor said, when you get out, go to that meeting, put a stake in the floor and hold on, because storms are going to be coming. And that's what I did. I went to that meeting and I got fully involved. I started going every day, had a sponsor, started chairing meetings. I got involved in the program, and it started working again. Like it's always worked whenever I've worked it. Whenever I've relapsed, it's because I stopped working the program. Whenever I work the program, it works every time. So whoever you are, no matter how, you can stay clean here. Anyone in this room can stay clean here. That's a guarantee. I don't know, 8.5 minutes. I don't know what else I want to tell you guys. The 4th step, we're supposed to be talking about the 4th step, I guess. I was thinking about the things I got mostly from the 4th step. One of the greatest gifts I got from the 4th step is whenever I'm in a conflict with somebody, now I can ask, what's my part in it? Because I could never do that before. If I had a conflict with you, my only focus was on you and what you were doing, not me, what I was doing. So that was a gift. The other gift of the 4th step was to identify the things that were preventing me from being of service to God. I believe God's will for me is to be loving towards you guys, and all my character defects are all selfish, self-centered, and they all interfere with that. They all, like, when I'm acting on a character defect, I've cut off my relationship with God. When I'm acting on a spiritual principle, when I'm being loving, tolerant, kind, I feel connected. I feel, connected to God, connected to people. Gahil Gibran said, to be connected to God, be connected to people. And I believe that. And I gained a lot of wisdom doing those steps. But wisdom's a funny thing. It's of no value if you don't use it. I mean, if you're in a house that's on fire, the wise thing to do would be to get the fuck out of the house. If you're still sitting in there and you're all crispy and the house is burned down, the wisdom wasn't of any value. So, Yeah, self-knowledge is the beginning of wisdom. If I learned about me, I learned about you. And yeah. So yeah, the fourth step taught me what those things were that were preventing me from serving God. And then in the sixth step, I identified those things, became willing to let go of, get rid of them. And in the seventh step, I asked God to remove them. I asked God to remove them because I tried to change. I had tried all my life to change. When I remember I was in fourth grade and school was starting, and I was thinking, this time I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to make my parents proud. I'm going to do my homework and all that. And about 3 or 4 weeks into school, I hadn't done any homework. I was just hanging on the corner with the boys. And yeah, that didn't work. I don't know. I think I'm about done. Well, I wanted to finish with a story. I wanted to finish with a story. You might have heard this story before, and if you heard it before, don't correct me. I may say it a little bit differently, but I'll get the gist of it. And this is a perfect description of Narcotics Anonymous. There's this guy, and he's babysitting his little 5-year-old daughter, and he's working on his taxes, and she comes up and she wants to play. And he says, well, I'll be 3 or 4 minutes. And she's like, 3 or 4 minutes, that's forever for a 5-year-old. So he has a picture of the world, and he tears the world all up into little pieces, and he puts it on a table and gives her some tape, tells her, put it back together, and when you get it put back together, then I'll play with you. He figures she'll take her about a half an hour, and during that half an hour, he can get it finished with his tax work that he's doing. She comes back in about 5 minutes, and she's got it all done, all put back together. And he says, how'd you do that so fast? And she said, that's easy. On the back of that picture of the world, there was a stick drawing of a man. I just put the man back together, and the world took care of itself. That's pretty much Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. All right, quick announcement. This is my own announcement. If anyone has any spare sunscreen, my wife texted me and she said if I get sunburned before our photo shoot tomorrow, she's going to kill me. I'm already in trouble, so I would appreciate the help. Okay, next up we got Bean. All right, Bean. Yeah.
My name is Bean. I'm an addict. I'm grateful to be here, man. Thank you guys for allowing me to be up here. My sponsor did ask me to come share. Bob's sponsor asked me, and I could say no, I am grateful to be here. I'm a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie. I haven't shared in front of this many people, but I'll be all right. What's up, kid? For me, man, I started when I was young. I started. I remember the first time with the liquid substance. I was down. My mom's from Oregon. My dad's from up here. My dad's from Lummi. My mom's from Chilliwack, Oregon, Klamath Falls. I remember being down in Oregon and all my aunties and shit partying and my uncles and. I remember them leaving shit out, and we tried it. I was probably like 8 or 9. That was my first time ever trying a substance. And all it really did, just went to sleep. Fast forward it, addictions on both sides of my family, my mom's side, my dad's side, generations back, and I remember growing up watching everyone party, man. And I remember my mom having hangovers, and she'd wake up and have to run to the bathroom and throw up. And as kids, we used to kind of make fun of her a little, steal her cigarettes, and mom wasn't gonna do anything because mom's too sick. Mom's hungover. But my mom, she did the best she can, man. I didn't really have a dad, and so and my auntie was like, she's up there. She died when I was 11. She was like, you know, the world to me. And my grandma too. My mom used to leave me with my grandma. My grandma died when I was young too. So I noticed for me, like, man, I really started acting out when they died, you know, and I started hitting the streets, man. I started, you know, getting in trouble. You know, I have a behavior problem. I got a, you know, an excuse problem. You know, the behavior problem, I realized, you know, when I worked on 4-step, it's been a while since I've done my 4-step, but I was just thinking about it, you know. The 4-step made me realize, like, you know, the problem was me, and it started way before I even started really using or drinking, you know, the behaviors. You know, I was acting out, you know, I was just committing crime. As a kid, we'd do whatever we wanted, you know, and get in trouble. We didn't care. I didn't really care. Go to jail, get out, bail out, you know, juvenile. And back then, you know, in juvenile, I don't know if you know, but they only give you like weeks. You know, you get sentenced, you get 30 weeks, or I think, you know. Now, you know, you graduate, you get 18, you get months. You know, you get 60 months and shit like that, 46 months. But you know, that's when it started, and you know, and I started ripping and running, you know, and I started, you know, selling drugs pretty young, and got locked up, you know, and did a little time in juvenile. I think I did like, I don't know, like 8 months or something. I got out. I think I was a freshman in high school, and the school didn't want me back. Bellingham High, they didn't want me back at school, and I was like, fuck this shit. So I just went full-fledged, you know, selling dope, and as soon as I turned 18, I caught a case. You know, I went to prison. You know, I got 3 years for selling crack. This is, I think, 1998. And, you know, at the time, I remember I didn't even faze me. Like, shit, I'll be out not long, 3 years, you know, and I did the whole 3. You know, you're supposed to get a third off, but not me. I'm good at making things worse. And, you know, I ended up getting out. And, you know, I'm in jail, and I'm smoking weed, and I'm getting in trouble, pissing dirty, you know, but losing my good time, going to the hole, just making things worse on myself, you know, and I get out. And I got out when I was 21. And my little cousin, man, she was 19, she had her sister's ID, and she's like, oh, let's go downtown. Let's go to the Royal. I don't know if you guys know what the Royal in downtown Johnny. This is downtown Johnny's used to pop. But, you know, she's like, let's go down there. I was like, no. She was like, you'll like it. Finally, I was like, fuck it, let's go. And I went. I was kind of hooked, you know. There's a bunch of girls. You know, I'm already, you know, I was out like, I don't know, 3 days, and I was selling dope. You know, I was already back to getting in trouble. You know, I'm on probation. I was like, oh, fuck it, I just won't use or drink, but I'll still sell dope. And, you know, I ended up getting off probation, and, you know, I think I had a year of probation. It's like, oh, I just won't use or drink, but I'll keep having my behavior problems. And, you know, that's what I did. And, you know, after the year, I started using and drinking, and, you know, a bunch of things, you know, countless times of going to jail, countless times of bailing out, countless times, man, and it was never that, man. I had some kids, you know, I got a 20-year-old, 19-year-old. I had 2 kids when I got out of prison when I was 21, and by the grace of the Creator, they're both in college, you know. One's in Arizona in college, and my other son's in Seattle in college. Go to UW, man, and I'm grateful for that because I was in prison at their age. And, you know, I get out, and I'm back to what I do, man, and fast forward to 2005, man, I'm back at the Royal, about to walk to downtown Johnny's. I got a gun on me, and I'm pretty drunk, you know, the liquid substance. I'm pretty lit, and you know, and I caught a case, man. I caught a case. It was Thursday night, and they took me to jail, booked me. I'm on the first floor. You know, the next morning I knock at the door. It's the feds. They're there to pick me up. And I'm thinking, like, what the fuck? What are they here? I'm thinking it's for some other shit. But because I don't really remember why I went to jail. And, you know, it's been many times of that. And, you know, and they tell me what happened. I was like, fuck it, man. They came to tell me they're taking me to SeaTac on Monday and I'm not getting out until I get out of prison. I was like, well, fuck you guys, man, whatever. And, you know, I go down to SeaTac and I still got this behavior problem, man. I get in trouble in SeaTac. Now I'm really got a bad behavior because I can't get out. I can't bail out. Normally I could bail out and I'd be back at what I do, you know. And, but I couldn't. So, you know, now I got a really, really bad attitude and I'm taking it out on whoever. So I'm getting in trouble there, going to the hole, you know. And eventually I get shipped off, you know. Well, getting ready to leave, SIS comes and takes me off the chain. They take me to the hole. Take me to the hole for like a month, man. And then finally they didn't hear me on my shot. So they sent me back out. They sent me down to Oregon. I get down to Oregon and like I'm on the yard like a month and I get in trouble. And then the shit from SeaTac follows me, so I'm back in the hole on both of them. And, you know, I got this behavior problem, man. And next thing you know, I'm getting shipped down to California. And, you know, California, down to a place called USP Victorville. And, you know, it's pretty bad there. It's like I don't know if anyone's been in prison, like Walla Walla, but worse, you know. It's a lot worse. And I'm down there, and I'm just not caring, man, and I'm using, and I'm, you know, not caring about life, man, and I got kids, you know, I got a son, and I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about anything, and long story short, man, I get in trouble there, and I'm in the hole. They sent me to Texas, man, USP Beaumont, man, and this place was really bad, man. If you think Cali was bad, Texas was really bad. And I did my last year there, and we were probably on lockdown like not the last, I'm a little tired, but like 9 of the 12 months I was there, we were just on lockdown. We'd come off lockdown, go back on lockdown, go out. But you know, I ended up getting out, you know, man, and making things worse, you know. I get out and I have my 2 sons, you know, I got my son Ryder and Carter. They're, you know, they're 9 and 7. They just turned 9 and 7 this month in April. And I had them, and you know, when I got out, this is 2013. I got out. I've been out of prison 10 years, man. And my addiction really took off then. Like, I started really using it a lot. After I got out, well, kind of towards the end when I got off probation, you know, I started the liquid substance, you know, pills, the coke, whatever, you know what I mean? I was like, fuck it, man. And it didn't take too long, you know. I would dibble and dabble. You know, my old lady knows something's going on, and then she, you know, she could tell something, and you know, I would try to say, oh, I'll quit, or I'm not going to do this, and you know, try things on my own will. And you know, I would make it a week or make it a few days, but I'd still see the same old friends, see the same old family that uses, and I would keep using, you know. And then this happens off and on, you know, until about, you know, I got clean at July 17. I got 69 and a half months clean, and and this is kind of like a fast forward story of my life. You know, and it wasn't all it wasn't all the times I was on probation, or all the times, like, you know, for the court. Finally, I got a point where I was pretty desolate, man. My spirit was pretty far. You know, my old lady was pissed. I got 2 little guys that are 3 and 1.5, and I had like a spiritual awakening. I had something, but the Creator told me, man, this ain't you. What the fuck are you, excuse my language, like, what are you doing, man? Snap out of it. You know, I didn't want my kids, my little guys, to see me either dead or fucking in prison, you know, coming to visit, because that's what happens, jails, institutions, and death. And my past record shows I'll go to prison and not care, you know, and make things really worse. And that's not what I wanted. And finally, I became willing to do whatever it takes to change. I remember my Auntie PC, man, shout out Auntie PC. She said she'd help me get to treatment. So I called her on it, and she did. She got me an eval and a bed date. I ended up getting a bed date. I did everything I can to talk my counselor into sending me, but she was a nice lady. She wouldn't let me. She always polite. I was like, man, well, we got to go. My bed date was like a week out from when I got my eval, and I would call her, and I'm like, we got crabbing coming up. I want to go crabbing. I need to make some money. And, well, no, your job, crabbing, will be there when you get out. And she'd politely hang up on me. Well, I got to get back to work. Click. I was like, fuck. And then I'd call back the next day, and I'd say, well, my kids need me. Well, this will be the best thing you do for your kids, And she's like, this is the best thing. Well, I got to get, someone's calling. I got to get back to work. Click. I was like, oh, she's good. And for some reason, this lady had a long time. I still talk to her. Shout out, Ginger. But I still talk to her this day. And I trusted her. And at the time, I wasn't trusting anyone. I somewhat trusted her. So I was like, man, I probably tried one or two more times of getting out of going. But I ended up going, man. I ended up going to treatment, man. And that was, that's where I heard the message of Narcotics Anonymous. And, I remember being in treatment my first day, and there was a war going on between good and bad, the angels and the demons going at it in my head. And I was there on my own, and I wanted to stay, but I wanted to leave. I wanted to stay. So, I was far from religious or holy, and I didn't know much about spiritual, but I prayed and I asked the Creator, man, to keep me here and give me some strength, man. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, man. Some relief came in. And I made it. I made it a fucking day clean, And I did the same thing the next day. And that's probably the first time ever in my whole life that I ever prayed back-to-back days. And, what do you know? I got 2 days clean. I was like, I'm still feeling like crap. I'm in treatment, And I got 2 days clean. I do it again the next day. And I prayed and I admit I'm powerless over addiction, man, and I need some help. Grady, I let my pride and ego down and I prayed, man. And things got a little better. And now I'm noticing like a correlation, for me anyway, between praying and staying clean. And feeling a little better inside. Like there's a little spark coming back. Even though I'm all fucked up, I'm feeling a little better. I even tried doing a few push-ups, a couple squats. I could only do 5 or 10 at the time. I was pretty weak, but I was trying, And then I remember, I can't remember how long, like within a week, a panel came in, of Narcotics Anonymous, man. And I remember hearing the message, and I remember the light bulb going off in my head. When I get out of treatment, man, that's where I'm going, because if Bean wants to stay clean, that's what Bean needs to figure out. Whatever they, I'm going to go give it a shot, It's like, fuck it. And I remember going back to my room that night, and I remember kind of future tripping out, like, man, can I go to these meetings every day? I remember asking myself that, and I remember my answer was like, you have to. If that's what you have to do to stay clean, you have to. And then I remember, like, asking myself these crazy questions. Can I stay clean 100 days? And I remember tripping, like 100 days was a long time, but if I get 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in prison, oh fuck it, man, I'll be out in no time. But 100 days clean at that time felt like eternity. And I remember even thinking 1,000 days, man, can I get 1,000 days? And then that's when I really had the thought, like, man, all we really have is today. If I can fucking stay clean today, man, that's a win. And that's when I was like, stop tripping about the past, stop tripping about the future, and just worry about today. So fast forward, man, I graduate from treatment. And I remember hearing, like, man, you hit a meeting your first day out, chances of staying clean go up. So I was like, fuck it. Got out on a Friday, got on my old lady's phone, found it was First Baptist, the Florida meeting. And back then, there was a lot of people. Like, I didn't know that, and this is like my first time going in there, and come walking in, and it's just packed. Everyone's smiling and laughing and having fun. I'm thinking, am I at the right place? Or is this, I'm here to get clean, like, like, what the fuck's going on? A couple of guys are like, come sit over here, and I was like, nah, I don't know, man. And the fucked up thing is, one of the guys was, my IOP counselor, I ended up going to IOP Monday, and it was the same dude that's saying, sit over here. I was like, oh man, I felt like a dick. But he was hella cool. Richard, he passed away, but he was a good dude. And that was my first meeting, man, and it took, for me, I've walked into some bad places in prison and not really cared, or not even really thought twice, but it was hard for me to walk through the doors, but I did, because I wanted to change, I was tired of living the way I was living. And, I came and I listened. I had to share it too, and I didn't want to share, but they passed around a thing and you had to pick out something to share about. And mine was the newcomer was the most important person in the room. And I swear to God, I thought they knew. I was like, how do they know I'm the newcomer? Like, this is a conspiracy. I was like, how do they know? And I remember because I got 30 days clean. I'm having all these thoughts in my head, like, how the fuck do they know this shit? And I stayed for the whole meeting. I don't really remember what was said too much, but I remember how I felt, man. I felt like that's where I needed to be, man. And I came back. I went to NFG. And I kept coming back, man, and I found a sponsor, and I started working the steps, started being in service, man, and, then now I'm a sponsor, and my life's, that diamond saved my life, today, I'm super grateful, for Narcotics Anonymous, and I always say it's not like this, it's not the money, or it's not the, I ended up getting a degree. It wasn't none of that, man. It was, it was for me, it's like I got that contact with my higher power. And it's the look on my mom and my kids and my old lady's face when they see me now. They know that I'm fucking clean. And they know that, for me, it got to a point where I couldn't say I was going to get clean or I am clean. I finally had to start putting in the work. And they know it now. And the look on their face when they see me, is worth $1 million. And, that's what pushes me, and it feels good, the 4-step, I'll go back to that. It just, I remember doing the 4. To be honest, I don't really remember a whole lot what I wrote about it, but I remember what I was thinking and how I felt. It just reminded me of, that there was I had a problem way before I ever picked up a substance, that I was a part of a behavior problem and it reminded me a lot of my childhood, and we were doing dirt, we were being bad fucking kids, And, I'm grateful. I'm kind of rambling on it now. I'm not sure how long I've shared for and if I've shared enough, but, I'm grateful to be here, and you guys, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Bean. All right, one more round of applause for